Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome today to the Lunch and Learn. Thank you for being on time, and we'll just wait probably like 30 seconds, a minute for the rest to join us. Hope everyone's having a great day. It's Thursday, one day away from the weekend. I hope your week has really gone well. And we're into December. I can't believe it. So, yeah, December is such a great month. And hopefully everyone coming in here will hopefully have a break over the Christmas season and recharge for the new year. So we'll give it another probably 30 seconds or so. We're expecting quite a lot of people to join us today. Okay, so hopefully everyone has their lunch with them, and I think we'll just dive in. There are going to be more popping in, but just to respect everyone's time for coming in on time as well, we'll launch straight ahead. So welcome to our Brown Bag Lifestyle Series brought to you by HeadHunt. My name is Wendy Lim, and I'll be the host for today. So I'm the Chief Impact Officer at FLOURISHdx, a workplace software that helps build a psychologically healthy and safe workplace to help promote employee well-being. So broadcasting live, we have with us today Wendy Chua, a partner of FLOURISHdx, a psychologist, and she runs her own consulting practice, which she'll talk about as well. And she'll be speaking on the topic of how to flourish in your mental health. So a very big topic these days. So really glad that you can join us, and hopefully the tips and just her sharing will help you out in your journey as well. But before I hand it over to her, please note there is a Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. So please feel free to type in the questions. And what we're going to do today is actually that I'll keep tabs on the Q&A, and I may interrupt Wendy and actually ask if someone asks like a really great question, and I'll just kind of say, hey, Wendy, there's a great question comes up, and then we'll kind of make it a lot more interactive than just having, a one-way dialogue. And definitely there's time at the end as well for Q&A. So we hope that you guys will stick around because I'm sure there'll be great questions coming up as well. And, no question's a silly question. Just please put it on there, because if you're thinking about it, likely somebody else is thinking the same thing. And right at the end as well, we'll be conducting a feedback poll. We would love to hear your thoughts on this session, because we would love to do more if this is helpful to people. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Wendy.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to be here this afternoon. So let me start sharing my screen. So great to be here with Wen. It's like Wen and Wendy, so it's like a double. We should just use that as a name for a show. All right. So welcome, everybody. I'm glad to be here to share with you how you can flourish in your mental health. So I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction of myself in a bit. But what we're going to be covering today, I can see it's quite a packed agenda. I'm going to introduce myself and how I fit into the whole resilience and mental well-being space and how I got here. And I'm going to talk about setbacks, what derails our mental health, and then a PAMA model of mental well-being. And how can we use this leadership concept called the balcony and the dance floor to help you with your mental health? And then also a way for you to become more aware of how you and your team is flourishing in your mental health. Then I'm going to bring in also some other concepts like the iceberg, the bridges model of transition, so that you take away some ideas on how you can also help yourself to be more aware and also to go through changes at work or in life. And then what else can you do? And stay tuned to the end, because there's some free stuff like a free copy of my book, a free basic account. So stay tuned to the end, and it will tell you how to get those free stuff, right? It's like Christmas comes early. All right. So who am I? Who people know of me today is I wrote 23 books, right? 20 of them on the theory of multiple intelligences for parents and children. I'm also an INSEAD graduate in the Executive Masters in Consulting and Coaching for Change. I'm a consultant in organization change. So I help organizations, their leaders, their teams thrive through challenges and to inspire resilience into them. I'm an entrepreneur. I have 4 children, age 18 years to 26 years. I thought I better tell people how old I am, because with all the video setting, I kind of look a bit younger. So I am 51, and I have the last like 25 years of experience applying psychology to workplaces, to education, and to individuals' growth. But I'm not here to talk and share just based on my academic and my professional experience. I think I want to actually bring in the personal part, a personal part of my life that made it really important for me to inspire resilience into others, right? Because in 1999, I was only 29 when I got retrenched. The father of my 3 children left us, and I became a single mom at a young age of 29. And what I learned, right, that all the academic accomplishment that I had did not prepare me to actually work on myself, right? I was in denial. And so after that incident, I went into Raffles Institution as the psychologist. And so I went into the school in charge of the mental health of 1,800 boys, their academic performance, their debating competition, making sure that they perform while I was going through my own setbacks. And that got me thinking about how can I help more people be well, right? To be resilient when they go through changes and difficulties. And that became my purpose and my mission. I left RI in 2003 and started one inspiration thinking, okay, I can do more beyond RI, and then SARS hit. So, there go, trying to start a business in the middle of SARS. But what happened during that time was that then I took time to say, you know what, I'm going to then write a book, right? So I wrote my 21st book during SARS by interviewing young people who went through setbacks. So when you want to talk about mental health, we kind of want to know actually what derails mental health. And so in 2003, I wrote this book, and I looked at 5 setbacks that can derail us, right? I looked at failure. So if you have a goal, whether you are 15 or 50, you have goals and you didn't reach that goal, you kind of feel like, oh, I failed, right? There's a sense of failure there. And then you might also say, mistakes, right? You thought you made a choice, whether it's to join this company, marry this person, trust this person, buy this pair of shoes. But then later I go, oh, there were consequences. It was a choice that led to consequences you did not want. That's a mistake. And the boy I interviewed for my book with mistakes, right? He was in solitary confinement. And I was like, what? You get that at 15? And he goes, yeah, he was in solitary confinement because he was fighting while in a youth hostel, like a youth prison. So they put him in solitary confinement, and he sat there and he reflected on all the mistakes that he made right up to that point. Illness, it could be your illness. It could be this boy that I interviewed who had leukemia at his young age. And then, so he was going through that setback. Over the years, I've also interviewed and helped people who's, it's not just them who got ill, but their loved ones who got ill. And that can also be a setback, a very difficult change. Betrayal, you trust someone, you trust your team, you trust some client or stakeholders, and then you felt they let you down. It happens when we are 15, it happens when we are 50, right? Loss, loss of a loved one through death, or loss of relationship because you move away or something happened to that relationship, you lost, right? You lost. And also right now, even in organizations, as I help people with adaptive challenges, we need to acknowledge that there's loss of certainty, loss of familiarity, loss of competence. Oh, I was so good at facilitating in person. COVID happened. I felt like I lost that sense of competence. And then it's about learning a new way of actually talking to my iMac, right? So it's a loss of familiarity. And I think all of us are in this masterclass because, you have overcome what happened in COVID. And COVID was an unexpected change, unexpected crisis that derailed all of us in one way or the other, in big ways or small ways. And so what a great time that we are talking. And actually the gift is that it gave us this opportunity to be okay to talk about mental health. When I was in RI and in, when I first came back to Singapore after being trained in psychology in Canada, just saying the word mental health was people were like, no, Wendy, don't talk about that. I can talk about emotional intelligence. You can talk about our children being well, but don't talk about illness, don't talk about mental health. And now I'm so glad that we can actually talk about it. So thank you for coming in here. And I hope that you pick something up for yourself, also pick something up for your own team at work and also team at home. So if you're a parent, right, I also appeal to you that whatever you pick up today, think about how you can use it with your children, because youth mental well-being is also something that I'm very passionate about. I'm running some pro bono work on National Youth Mental Wellbeing. So if you're ever interested, you can also email and I'll put you on the volunteer list for that. Okay. So mental health, right? If you look at this chart, it is a continuum. It's not like you have or you don't have, right? It's so like, at any one time, a percentage of the working population would have what clinicians would diagnose as mental disorder. But today we want to actually focus on mental health, right? So the sort of the Turkish part of this, the bluish part of this graph, right? Where we want to be mentally well. And I will share with you how you can self-assess yourself and build this wellness. And then there'll be times when you feel like you are flourishing, and there are people in the population that are flourishing. And again, how can you tell you're flourishing? I'll give you an idea later. And then when you're aware that you're languishing in any part of your mental wellness, what can you do to actually help yourself towards that mental wellness again? All right. So as I said, I will tell you now how you can actually have a model to look at yourself. And as I explain this, give yourself a little assessment, right? 1 being really bad, 10 being really high. So 1, if you can do this for yourself, just manually. I know we have an app for this, but just for now, we can just do a self-assessment. All right. So in Martin Seligman's Palmer Plus model of mental well-being, he looks at 5 components, right? And he's like the father of positive psychology, right? Where he says, psychologists, we should not just look at mental illness. By the time people are ill, it's harder to like pull them back to wellness. But if we help people to be aware of how they can be well and take actions, right? And create an environment where people can be well, then it's like prevention is better than cure. Right. And this is something I want to advocate. So the first component is positive emotion. So if you ask yourself, all right, as you are rating yourself, in the last 1 week, okay, since last Friday till now, how often do you experience hope, interest, love, joy, compassion, like somebody showing kindness to you, or you've been kind to someone, pride in your work, pride in your appearance, amusement, some laughter and humor and gratitude, right? So if you feel okay, quite often, a lot of it, you give yourself a high rating. If you go, oh my, I didn't really have that much positive emotions, then you give yourself a lower score. No judgment. This is more about self-awareness. Okay. So know that even if you have a bad score, it's not like you are bad. Okay. You have a bad score here, and you can actually learn to cultivate and improve this part of it. The second part of his model talks about engagement. So some of you may have heard like flow, right? So where you are so engrossed in an activity, whether it's cooking, walking, playing the piano, or like me, when I facilitate online, I feel like I'm in such an engaged experience. I can forget about time. That's why I have to keep looking at the clock that I'm not talking too much, right? Because I'm in the flow, I'm present, I'm focusing entirely on this task and this experience. So again, rate yourself in the last 1 week, how often you feel like you are in an activity that gives you engagement. And it can be an activity or a task at work. Maybe you're writing something that you're really in the flow, or you're in a meeting, or cooking at home, right? So it can be also activities outside of work. The third component is relationship, right? So how often in the last 1 week, you feel like you were interacting with people you trust, people who care about you, people you care about. So your relationship, right? Positive relationships are important for your well-being, right? You feel loved, supported, and valued by others, okay? So that is an important part of well-being. Fourth would be meaning, right? How do you feel like your life has meaning? So it could be that the work that you do, I don't know, like you feel meaning, that there's a purpose, you're serving something bigger. So it's not just, oh, I'm writing an email, but the email is going to help create a project that is going to help people that way, okay? Or if you could say, okay, maybe not as much at work as that I like to, but at home, that you're raising children or taking care of your parents, or maybe in the community, you're doing something that you know gives you meaning. And then finally, in his PAMA, the A stands for accomplishment, that you know that in the last 1 week, you have persevered to attain some goals. So it's not about, okay, I finished writing the book, then I can feel a sense of accomplishment. It could be while I'm writing in my journal, I feel like, hey, I am writing, and there's a milestone. You know, I attend a meeting, doing a masterclass, it can give me a sense of accomplishment. So giving yourself that permission to give yourself a pat on the back to say, you know what, I have persevered, I have put in some discipline to attain small steps along the way since last week, then you score yourself again. Okay, so give yourself a little score. All right. And then very importantly, the plus means plus something. So one thing that in FLOURISHdx we want to plus is our sleep. So it's interesting, right? How many of you would say, wow, I have fantastic, I can score myself 10 out of 10 for sleep. Yeah, yay, Wen, you're going to tell us a little bit more later. Please, if you ask questions, please ask Wen. Because when I did my self-assessment, in August, my sleep was like not flourishing, right? But it's good to know that when I got my sleep score was not so good, it got me reflecting on what is happening. And it got me admitting that I have some pinched nerve, something that's happening in my body that actually makes my sleep difficult, right? And so like a high achiever, I am, I better do something about my sleep score. Okay, so knowing the PAMA model plus sleep, right? I'm going to ask you to then take a balcony moment. So those of you who may have attended leadership programs or read leadership articles may be familiar with this concept called the balcony and the dance floor. Okay, so a psychologist in Harvard, Ron Hetzfitz, he wrote about, adaptive leadership, right? That and how all of us actually have technical or adaptive challenges. And technical challenges are like, okay, there's a set solution to it, right? It's done before pretty much SOP. Okay. Adaptive challenges could be what happened during COVID, where we don't have an SOP. We're like, okay, maybe we've got SARS before, but, still a bit different. Okay, how do I actually, transfer all my work online? Okay, how do I do this? So there were a lot of adaptive challenges, right? And mental health, I mean, especially in Singapore, we don't have a set sort of procedure yet. And that's why we are all in this together to help one another figure it out. So for you individually, what this might mean for you is to take a balcony moment from time to time, at least once a week, to pause for a few minutes and say, what's going on with my mental health? How is my sleep? How am I with my positive emotions? Been very frustrated recently. Okay, can I take a moment to breathe in some gratitude? What am I grateful for? Okay, and what about if I create a dinner with my family? And so I will work on my positive emotions, we get some laughter. And also I'm also improving the R part, the relationship part. So you can now be actually more deliberate in creating those mentally healthy moments. So take a balcony moment once in a while to look at your mental health. Many leaders might take a balcony moments to look at how their business is going, finance is going, even their team is going, but seldom do leaders pause to ask themselves, how am I being? Yeah, I'm just going to pause here and just ask Wen, is there any questions?
I thought this might be a good time as people reflect. So just touching on sleep. So it is recommended for 7 to 9 hours a day. And actually, supposedly the best sleep is actually to get into bed between 10 and 12. And this is Asia, where a lot of people sleep a lot later. And it's just, the circadian rhythm of just, going to bed, when it's it's dark and then waking up when it's sunrise, it's actually a very, very good habit. And for me, my sleep is really, because I'm actually very disciplined about sleep. So the other night I had a dinner party and I had friends coming over, and I told them they had to leave very nicely at 9:45. It was a weeknight. I have work the next day, and I just set the boundaries really early. And I just said, hey guys, I'm feeling a little bit, that I need a lot of rest. Would it be okay? And everyone was completely happy. It gave permission for everyone to actually go home as well and get a good rest. So that's just a tip that I find actually with a lot of these things, even with your mental health, is actually a lot of discipline around it, setting good practices and being very cognitive and aware of it. So that's kind of my health tip. But on the FLOURISHdx app, there is a sleep module. So later on, Wendy will talk about downloading and all that. But there's videos on sleep and how to actually foster good sleep. And just having a really good sleeping pattern, you can feel your brain's being more, creative, innovative. You're thinking a lot better. And hence, this is why Flourish added sleep as, part the PERMA plus model. Wendy, there was a good question that came up, and kind of going back to when you were talking about setbacks. Someone, and thank you so much for your question, Patricia. How do you cope with the loss of a beloved pet? We were really, considered him part of the family, and obviously, they're grieving. Do you have any tips in terms of grieving, like losses in your life?
Very good question. And actually, I'll be covering that in the model of transition later on. But definitely, loss is loss. So if the family and the children feel like there's a loss in relationship, loss of a pet, the best thing is to acknowledge the emotions and not to go, oh, come on, it's just a cat, right? The worst is to invalidate it, right? Because the emotions are real. And when I go through the model of transition later on, Pat, you can also sort of translate that to how you can use with your children. And I'll definitely also add that in later on for you. Okay.
And just one last question on the balcony. How do we switch between balcony and dance floor moments?
Okay, very deliberately, right? And now that you have the language, you can go, I'm going to take a balcony moment and actually pause and take a deep breath. Actually, just picture yourself on a balcony and go, okay, what am I looking at now? What am I observing, right? So you kind of need to do that sort of very deliberately until a point where it can be an unconscious competence, right? That you do it in the moment. You can use the word, I'm taking a balcony moment with your team as well, if you teach them this concept, right? Because sometimes the teams are like in a discussion and then you can feel like, oh, they're getting too much into the details. Like they're all literally on the dance floor and stepping on each other's toes. You can say, hello, guys, let's take a balcony moment. Let's go up on the balcony and literally, and take a look at what is really going on. What are the issues here? What are the patterns that we're noticing in this conflict or this, challenge here? Who is doing what, right? Who is not talking to each other? Who is well here? So mentally well, right? Who is angry and anxious? Who is happy with this change? So you can definitely come up with the questions for your balcony moment. All right. So I hope that helps, right? You do need to do a deliberate pause. Yes, Violet, is a bit like seeing the big picture. And at the same time, and I guess because when we talk about a balcony moment, you're kind of looking at it from a different view. And then you can even say, you know what, first level balcony, good. Let's go to the second level. And maybe when I look at the second level, I'm looking not just at my team, but I'm looking at the organization. And if I go even higher, and I just imagine all of you visualize yourself at like the top of the building looking down, I would see what is the balcony moment for the country. So when I put mental health into this, a balcony moment for myself is my own mental well-being check-in. If I look at my team, it's a balcony moment for my team. When I go right up, I look at Singapore and I say, what's the mental health landscape of Singapore? That gives me a different balcony moment, right? And a picture that's even bigger. Okay. So if you're interested in this, I mean, feel free to Google this concept, and sort of learn it and teach it to your team, right? And in terms of using this balcony moment. Okay. It's a balcony moment, a pause, looking in the in taking the bigger picture and also looking at the patterns and the implication for you and the mental health issue, right, that you face. Okay, so if I can continue with this, then of course, if you want to do your own check-in, there is an app that you can actually download to look at it, right, to access the degree in which you are on these positive pillars, right? Positive emotions, engagement, relationship, meaningfulness, accomplishment, and your sleep. And you will actually indicate whether you're flourishing, neutral, or the red means like languishing, okay? So, and you can, I've kind of asked you to estimate your scores just now. I'm not going to ask you to reveal it, but, you can estimate your score if you don't want to do it online, but definitely having specific questions would help you be more aware. Now, how would you estimate your team score? I mean, if you're interested, right, literally a balcony moment about your team, like how are they, and I actually did this with my team, right? So individually, I know my score. I don't know my team members' scores because it's private, all right? Only if they want to share me, they'll share me. But the good thing about this is I can actually take a balcony moment digitally and look at my team score. So I'm so absolutely open with you that my team score in August, we were doing okay except sleep. Having said, right, the leader didn't do well. So I think, just having the data, right, when I tell you it was such a balcony moment for me about my team, right? I go, okay, what's going on? So then we had conversations about what's going on, so mine could be a physical ache that's causing me, sleepless nights or difficult sleep. Somebody else, would say, okay, worry about the son, worry about the father. So we then have very open, psychologically safe conversation about what's going on with our PAMA scores, right? Our Flourish survey scores. Wen, do you want to say anything about this or have questions about this for me?
No, I think it just provides a lot of clarity, but just to everyone, if you stay to the end of the talk, Wendy's got a QR code on there that you can scan and get team members and yourself free access up to 12 people into this. And then you can basically do exactly this and have a look at it for yourself and your team. So just to let you know, that's coming up.
It's coming up. Okay. So now that I've brought you up the balcony, I'm going to bring you underwater. So it's very adventurous masterclass, isn't it? So you go up the balcony, to look at the patterns, to take a moment to look at what's going on before you go back on the dance floor and get busy again, right? So when you are on the balcony or when you are pausing, you can also use the iceberg model to take a look at yourself. Okay, because and I'm going to apply this to like mental health, right? So what kind of behaviors might people say, okay, we need to take in order to be mentally healthy, right? So for example, you say, okay, I want sleep. Can you see this? Sleep, right? Yeah, Ken? Can you see sleep?
No, it's still on the slide that says iceberg model.
Oh, but can you see me write sleep on it?
Oh, yes. Sorry. It's so faint. I'm so sorry.
Okay, sorry. I can do this. Okay. All right. Sleep. All right. Okay. So when we say, okay, my behavior, I want to sleep by, okay, one says by 10 to 12. So by 11 p.m. All right. Okay. And they might go, you know what? I want to like listen better because, that will help me be a better leader or have better relationship. Okay. Like listen and not interrupt. Okay? So you may say, okay, there are certain things that you want to, some habits you want, right? In order to be mentally well, according to that model, right? These are some important parts. But what happens under the waterline that people are not aware or you may not be aware of are your feelings. So if you're feeling anxious, right? Maybe you're like, oh, there's a big meeting tomorrow. I'm anxious. Of course, you're not going to be able to maybe just go to sleep without help, right? You got like, just toss and turn. You could be anxious to get your point across. And so you interrupt rather than listen. Okay. Or maybe you're angry. So if you're angry with someone, of course, you're not going to sleep well. You're not going to listen. So we have all kinds of feelings, right? That can interrupt us, can interfere with your behavior. Yeah, those behaviors that will help you mentally well. You're not doing it because you're angry, right? Or maybe because you're sad, you can't sleep. So these are some feelings. So you may have thoughts that if I don't finish my work, right? So it could be I let people down or I'm not perfect. and I need to be perfect. So you have thoughts as well, right? That would interrupt you. So as you're trying to sleep, trying to listen better, you may have what I call automatic negative thoughts that runs through you and stop you from listening better or sleeping better. So if you are not clear about your goals, if your goals are unclear about your own mental health, then you're not going to actually take action. A lot of people say, yeah, I want to be mentally healthy, but they don't do anything. So you need to set clear goals, and be very clear what those goals are for, right? What values will help you? So values like health, maybe you say, you know what, family is important. Therefore, yeah, it's important for me to look after my mental health. So yes, that's an important value. So you kind of need to dig deeper into yourself in order for you to change your behavior above the waterline. Right underneath would be our needs, right? So we have needs for survival, stability, self-esteem, and significance, right? And also we would have fears right at the bottom. Maybe a fear of rejection. Okay, fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough, fear. So your fears might be keeping you up at night, or your fears might be, causing you to not listen better because you need to get your point across, right? So we have all these underwater, and I don't have time to go too deep and elaborate on this, but again, I'm sharing this with you so that if you want to, right, take time to read up on this, go and Google, read about it, so that you can go, okay, when I want to pause and help myself, what do I need to be aware of? So your emotions, your thoughts, your goals, your needs, your fears, okay? All right, so hopefully that helps. Is there any questions or thoughts about the iceberg? Win?
Nope, nothing has popped up.
Okay.
But this is a really good exercise to do. I've done this with Wendy before. Actually, all the exercises she's talking about, I've actually been through. So we thought that this was a really good thing to take away and to do yourself in your time and just kind of draw it out, just on a piece of paper, and then what's really the feelings under it, and really dig deep. But yeah, hopefully this is a helpful thing, but no questions on this specifically at the moment.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Oh yes, and you will volunteer with me when we ran a resilience program for women after breast cancer. So we taught the iceberg to the women to help them understand their own inner fears and also their thoughts that they carry with them, right? And how to change that. So yeah, thank you for reminding me about that. So, okay. So other than this model, so now I'm going to address, whoopsie. Okay, let me keep this. And then I'm going to address Patricia. Was it Patricia? I hope you're still here, in terms of coping with loss. So this is, in psychology, we have different models. We have the grief cycle, there's 7 stages to it. And usually that is when we grieve the death of a loved one, death of even the death of a marriage. Yeah, we have this grieving cycle. For organizations, we've adapted it. And William Bridges is an organization psychologist. He came up with this model of transition because when, I've been getting quite a lot of requests from executives who are facing burnout. They're not sure if they are or not, but they just feel tired, right? Exhausted, frustrated, not just because of COVID, but in addition to COVID, organizations go through a lot of changes. They might be going through roles. So they have loss of relationship because they embrace a new role. Processes are unfamiliar. The teams might have grown bigger. So all these affect their mental well-being, right? And they know that they are not performing at their best. So a model like this, right, whether you apply it to yourself, apply it to your family who's coping with the loss of a pet, is you would recognize there's a period where that thing ended, right? And there will be denial and there'll be shock. Then there's ambivalence. There's what do I do in this situation, right? It's unclear. Do I do it this way? Do I do it that way? So there's a period of ambivalence. Then there might be anger and stress and frustration. And here it's not just stage by stage, right? In a way, it kind of do more like this. Okay, one moment you're angry, one moment you're stressed, and stress is the whole perceived inability to complete a task, right? You say, oh no, can I handle this, right? Can I help my family through this? Can I be a leader in this new situation, right? So you are wondering, can you do it? So there's the stress there. And then there's frustration because you try something new, you try doing this, you try talking to them about this, but it might not be going the way you want to. So there's frustration. So whether it's at home or at work, recognize that there are these emotions that people go through, yourself, your team, your family, and it is validated, right? It's not like, why are you angry? It's like that it's okay. Talk about the anger. What are you angry about, right? In this neutral tone, ask, what are you angry about? What are you feeling anxious about, right? So the stress here is also anxiety. What are you afraid of? And even at home or even at work, like, what are you sad about in this situation? Yeah. Don't assume, right? It's better to ask and then actually listen to what they say. Then we'll come to a point where it's neutral, right? The people are still like coming to terms with the change, right? Because the change is fast, okay? A change happens really fast, but the transition takes time. Okay, so by having conversations, people will get into upward skepticism, right? It's like, oh, is this really a good thing? Can we really handle this? Then eventually, as people talk and experiment together, so you kind of need to keep talking. Okay, there's a lot of communication here, what we call transition space. All right. And then by then, as you talk and you have this psychologically safe space to talk about emotions, what have you tried, what didn't work, what worked, and you have these sharing, right? People will start to accept that the change has happened. And in fact, they'll start to see that there's some importance to the change. Yeah. And then there'll be hope, enthusiasm, and then you have a new beginning. Okay. So those are ways that you can help people through a change. Now, of course, if you lose a pet, it's not to say that it will come a point where you go, yeah, we lost a cat. It's not that. That's pretty insensitive, right? But at least people feel like, okay, we went through it together as a family. We actually got stronger because of this experience. We were listening to each other. We were supporting each other. So it was, people actually felt hope, right? That the family is going to go through this difficult time together and emerge as a stronger, more united family. Yeah. Same thing with at work, that, as a team, because you check in with each other on your mental health, your mental well-being, what you're doing, you're giving encouragement to each other. You're going to go, you know what? Actually, because of the change, we actually got stronger as a team. Yeah. So this is how hope and enthusiasm can look like. Okay. All right. I think that might
Wendy,
be a question.
Mm-hmm. There is a question from Violet. Thanks for your question. Will an individual bounce between the ending and neutral zone, and how can we help them to move towards new beginning zone?
Okay, thank you for that question. Very, very appropriate. So sometimes people most of us actually go through more than one change, right? I mean, if you're really, really at the balcony looking down, go, okay, actually, it's not just one change, right? COVID is one change, but it could be changes in the family as well. So I was working with a CHRO who was, working towards her retirement. So she went through all that, and then she was at the enthusiasm and hope, like, yes, new beginning, retirement, when her mother fell ill and passed away. And so then on her personal front, she went into shock and sadness and anxiety. Yeah. So there is two changes that's going on, and she's not going crazy to have enthusiasm and anger at the same time, because there's two changes. And for her to be able to recognize that, right, to give herself permission to feel some joy and excitement while she's experiencing grief. Okay. And how can an individual then do this is the neutral. So as I was sharing, right, you can Google transition space. So let me actually write this better. Okay. Transition space is a regular time. So it's not just a physical space. Right now it's pretty much online, but a regular time where you can sit there, or you and your team can go, you know what, what's going on? So my team now at 8 a.m. on a Monday, we're actually going to change to 8:30. Okay, 8:30 a.m. every Monday, we do a mental well-being check-in, right? We actually use the app. It says, okay, what are we feeling? Why are we feeling that way? And any changes that has happened since last week that we should all be aware of, right? And it's not problem solving, but we have these conversations, and it's not a long call. It's like half an hour and we're done, right? And then we may have task meeting calls after. But for that half an hour, whoever can be turn up. As the leader, I always turn up, all right? So that I can be there, whether it's 2, 3, or 4 people turning up. We do a mental well-being, right? And so it helps us go through between the neutral zone. In fact, it goes through like all the different endings to the neutral zone to the new beginning, because we constantly have new projects. We constantly have things that's happening in our family. So we can definitely help one another to move towards the new beginning by having the transition space, regular time of checking in and support, right? So there's the support here. That would be useful. So I hope that helps you, Violet, to help yourself. Personally, I journal a lot. So when I go through a difficult time, I actually write it in my journal. It's a habit that I started when I was like 15 years old. It got reinforced when I was in INSEAD because they give us all a journal and it says journal, right? So as a good student, I journal, okay? And I realized it helps because it helps me to express myself, right? And to know that we do not judge emotions. Okay, so this came from my book. I'll give you a chance to, oh yeah, you can write to me. You can free PDF copy, right? Because one thing about positive emotions, we want to experience the joy and the gratitude. It doesn't mean we don't have negative ones. It doesn't mean we don't feel sad. What it is that when you experience sadness, acknowledge it. When you experience anger and anxiety, acknowledge it. So that when you acknowledge those difficult moments, you appreciate and you know how to create the joyful moment, right? The moment of gratitude as well. So love yourself, all your emotions, right? Because you're human. When you
yeah, I was going to say, so the practice that you do with your team, I have to say is very progressive. I don't think this is common between a lot of workplaces. So I just want to put it out there so that, you know, everyone that's on the call, they're like, whoa, like this is, I would say it's a fantastic, very progressive way.
Yeah.
But I think that this is really helpful as well. And it's to start by baby steps.
Yes.
You know, we're really outlining like really best case, you know, kind of like gold standard of how to do this and especially in a workplace, not everyone's comfortable.
Yeah.
But also what I'm hearing, you know, with all the great resignation and everything else that's happening, people are literally because they don't have that space to talk and even give upward feedback or, you know, and so as managers and as employers, I think it's critical now to do this and to start with baby steps. And this is where, you know, the app's really good, where people can check in. It's anonymous, but you get a sense check immediately on how people are doing. And so I think it's really important to just, you know, start somewhere, you know, move towards that. But then, you know, it's very common, I find, in workplace culture where if someone's frustrated and angry, they never tell the people who should be hearing it. They are telling everyone outside, and the, you know, management and the people in the organizations can't do anything about it because they don't know that this is actually boiling inside. So I just wanted to kind of caveat that, you know, it's amazing what you do, and hopefully workplaces will get towards that way.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, one inspiration, we say we only preach what we practice, right? So for me, my vision is that, can you imagine, Wen, right? That if teams, you know, and it doesn't have to be big teams, small teams, right? Start having such mental well-being check-in, right? And that's my vision, right? And that if people can feel safe to do this, if leaders are going to go, you know what, I care enough to do this, it might feel a bit awkward and clunky, but we're going to start this, right? And they start, you know, and so I'm experimenting with my own team, right? So if we can do this for 10 weeks, that's our experiment, we actually can collect our own data. Right. And then I would feel that I can actually advocate this. And I know how it might be difficult that on a Monday morning, I will wake up, I will go onto Zoom. Do I want to do it? You know? And so it's for me to find out. And actually, we've been working with some clients already and advocating it. And so it may not be 8 a.m. So there's one group of directors that they'll do it at the beginning of their Tuesday meeting. Right. And just to do it. and see how it feels. Yeah.
So there's a question here. Would the weekly check-in with teams be too much or, too frequent? Would it become a chore? And would the teammates then quickly complete the sharing just to get out of it, I guess? How has the team, how's the team's well-being now? Have you noticed an improvement by doing it so frequently?
Thank you for that question. I think because we are a very trusting team, so there's quite a few things, we've been very open, authentic with one another. So we do, when they come in, they do take this like with full-heartedly. And remember, there are some team members that for whatever reason don't make it there. It doesn't mean they're excluded. They could still send me a text, and I would still check in with them. But we know that there's a safe space, and it's part of dealing with the ambiguity. In the midst of the changes, everyone knows there's a set time that they can come in and catch up with people, right? Because we're now working from home, we don't see each other. And if we go on a call, we might just be talking about work. So everyone knows that there is one regular time. And actually, I find that because of the FLOURISHdx, I can't see individuals, but I can see collective data. So I can actually see collectively that the team is getting better, right? And that collective data I will make available to my team as well. So I can't tell who is doing what individually, but the check-in gives me the idea, but collectively I know the data.
I have to say, Wendy, you are using it more often than other workplaces. So, I mean, the recommendation could be anything like, once a month. So let's say, a mid-month check-in. If you have a very large organization and you build in like kind of a rhythm where mid-month you check in, so let's say the 15th of every month, the survey goes out to everyone. It's literally 30 seconds on how everyone's going and what are the factors. So then, it's definitely, I would say, organizationally specific. But yeah, having a cadence and building into the culture is great. And of course, I think, Wendy, it's amazing that you can do this using the data and just creating the safe space at the same time. So I would say that, I mean, obviously you are a bunch of psychologists and people who are very in touch with this area as well, which why I think it works. But for others, for example, a startup that's full of, IT tech developers, doing just even a monthly check-in wouldn't be probably the right pace for them. So it would really, I would say, depend on the organizations.
It depends. Yeah, right. And some individuals in the team might actually check in more often on their own app. We know because they feel like it gives them a way to look at themselves, right? To take their own balcony moment without me initiating it. So, so individually, they can use the app whenever they want. They might watch the videos, have questions. So some use more than the others. Okay, so I'm going to now go to the a resilience map. Okay, so this is something that I created because I've been running resilience programs even before pandemic. And I think what this is useful for is when you pause and go, okay, what's going well? You also want to pause and go, how do you know you need support? Right? When you are in the busy in the dance floor and you're like snapping at people and not feeling well, not sleeping, sometimes in that moment, you don't even know you need support. So this is for you to be aware first so that when you are displaying those, those are red flags, right? So for example, one of my red flags would be if I start micromanaging. So usually I'm a very easygoing boss, but if I start going, have you done it? Have you done it? Right? Or to my husband or to my children, have you done it? Have you done it? They all know that's my red flag, right? That mom is either stressed or feeling undervalued or something is going on or she needs a cup of coffee, we'll bring it to her, right? So when I start micromanaging, okay, or when I start snapping at people or I don't sleep well for many days, right? So I'm going to ask your self-awareness, just have a chat, right? Check in on yourself. Like what might be your red flags? Okay, what might be your red flags? And just at least you know it. And you might want to warn other people, around you go, okay, when you see me like this, know that I actually need extra support. Yeah, I might want a cup of coffee, and that's where you go to the people in your life, right? Who can support you, when you're going through a difficult time, right? And what? Some people, like my best friend, I just think, okay, a cup of kopi siu tai with her would just like, okay, it's quite funny, right? We have a good time. I don't need counseling or anything. I just need a cup of coffee. It could be other support that you need, someone to buy groceries on your behalf. It could be like someone to watch the kids, someone to help you with a paper that you're writing. So what support do you need? Yeah. And then thirdly, wellness rituals. What will energize you again, right? Maybe it's a massage. Some people are like, massage will energize. Some people say, don't touch me. Oh, that'll be like trauma, right? Everyone has different rituals. Some people say, go for a walk in the nature. Some people say, I pray. Some people say, I read. So again, have your resilience map, right? Prepared. So that when you go through a difficult time or you are feeling down, you can look at the map, go, okay, what do I need now? What can I actually do? Right? For me, it's even buying the $3 flour from the market, putting it on my table and look at it and I go, a moment of joy. Yeah, it's not like I need a whole hour of joy. That one moment of looking at the flour bought from the market already sparks a bit of a joy. All right. So this is something, again, I give to you to use, something very practical.
This is really helpful. I have to say, especially there's periods where you're feeling a bit languishing.
Yeah.
So definitely during the last 2 years, everyone has had those moments. And so for me, I know, like, I have a girlfriend who I call, text and say, I need to do something spontaneous. So literally we'll just do something that, okay, we're going to meet here, like in the next hour, we're going to have a drink together. And that's kind of my, my tools in my little tool belt that I know that when I'm not really feeling it, that's what I do. So it is, it can be music, it can be a walk in the park where you don't really feel yourself. And you're slightly, languishing a little bit.
Yeah.
And so this is such a good tip. And especially, I know, with all the news at the moment with the new strain and all that, people, I would say, it's quite a touch and go time.
Yeah.
And so having these kind of, go-tos immediately, it's very, very helpful. And so, I think it's a great thing to reflect right now in the lead up as well. And how do we prepare ourselves for the new year, which no doubt there's going to be, who knows what's next.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for bringing up about the new year, right? So maybe you can say, what, in the future, there's a few things we have no control over, right? Like, when is the next strain coming? There's many things we don't have in control of. But definitely what we have in control of is our own personal vision. What's important to us? What will be meaningful for you, right? So part of PAMA, M, meaning, right? What is the relationships that you want to create in the new year? So we actually have a vision collage, right? That we do. Now, in the past, I actually had people coming to my house to do this in January, but now COVID, limited. So we went online, okay? So in January, every January, I create this like free session. And this year we went digital. We use Canva for people to actually come together. I know you can say, I can do this on my own. Great, do this on your own. But you feel like you want the energy of other people, it's kind of nice to come together and create your vision collage. So this, right? Like, so the one on the left, the using used magazine, cut, paste, is an example of my husband's a few years ago. So it's like cycling and everything. The digital collage is mine from this year. So, you can see that I want relationships. I have a spiritual part of me. I want to break barriers and break the wall and go, limitless. I want to be fit. I want to be like a lighthouse, right? So that's like a purpose. I want to be like a lighthouse that I can help people navigate through storms. Yeah. So creating a vision collage for yourself, whether using used magazine or even just pictures you find from the internet and put it all together in a PowerPoint, helps you to have a visual representation of your meaning, right? What makes meaning to you? What would help you with your well-being, right? So this could be your homework for the month. You can do this alone. You can do this with your team. You can do this with your kids. Okay. So again, some practical tips for you.
It's also really good for when you're clearing out, like if we're doing spring cleaning.
Magazines.
Yeah. All the magazines and all that.
I used to have people sending magazines to only bring it during the, collage making, and then they leave it, right? But now we've gone digital, so we can clutter even more.
Well, and I've done this exercise with Wendy years ago, and I took a picture of it. I saved it in my phone, and it was just such a therapeutic process to even go through magazines and then seeing a picture that pops out at you. You're not sure why even sometimes, and then you're cutting it and you're pasting, and when you see it, it kind of like, it's like, wow, this is the stuff that really excites me.
Yes.
Yeah, and then maybe later on the Q&A, because it's not too many questions here,
Yes.
but I might talk about a couple of things that, I'm kind of using your strengths. This might be very, very helpful. And we have other surveys on the app, like the VIA survey and all that, incorporating that into your life and work. So we'll touch on that later. But a lot of people are asking, what's the app, all that kind of stuff. I know that's your next slide. So I'll let you do that.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Okay, so there's those of you who feel like you would like to contact me directly. I'll also have put my email address, so feel free to email me if you've got something private that you want to talk to me about, right? So definitely there's a scan. See, I've learned to be so digital, right? So you can actually scan it, or I think we can even put it on the chat, right? But if you scan it, you will see this page comes up. So write your company name, your address, your name, country, and then just tick, and then you already get a free account. I would then, be notified, and I can actually help you if you need any help. But definitely, it's actually quite easy for you to set it up and invite 11 other people, up to 11 other people in your team. So you can do your own experiment like I'm doing with my own team, right? Like, let's do a check-in. Let's make sure we are helping one another to be well, okay? So that is the site for you to set up your free basic account, okay? And then you also have my email address. So if you want to write to me at wendy@oneinspiration.com, you get a free PDF copy of my book. And I made it freely available last year after, I read about how the healthcare people are feeling really like burning out. And I told my printer, I said, can you just make it into PDF? I want to give it away. So there you go. You get a free PDF copy. And there's a lot of other reflective questions in there that you can use. The reading of it is, I think, like 1 hour. You finish it, all right, over coffee. But it will take time for you to go back and do the reflection questions. So 2 things that you can get free, right? My book, as well as the FLOURISHdx basic account.
Great. Thank you so much, Wendy. Thanks for that sharing. And we'll go into Q&A, and please do pop up questions. I know, everyone here obviously is a working professional. This is targeted at that group. And so if there's not too many questions, and I might just kind of talk away. Oh, actually, there is one here. From Josephine Wong. Sorry, I need to lean forward. My eyesight's not great. Regarding the wellness ritual, if only retail therapy is the solution, but at the same time, one knows it goes overboard, e.g. buying luxury items that one doesn't need, just to satisfy that need and to be happy, and make one less depressed. So how can one handle it? Not to mention the burden of paying for the stuff later.
Thank you for that question. And especially after Black Friday and Cyber Monday, a lot of people might now be feeling guilt and worry instead of that joy. Yeah. So what I would suggest is, if you're aware that there's only one ritual and it's not the healthiest because there's unintended consequences, right? So those could become under the mistakes, like, oh, why did I buy that? I can't return it, right? Of course, if you can return it safely, that's fine. But if you can't, then it becomes a financial anxiety. So you do need to look at other rituals, because gambling, shopping like this is actually a dopamine trigger, right? We all need dopamine. And so they actually found that people who are gambling, it's not the winning that gives them the spark of dopamine. It's actually just before they pull the jackpot. Yeah. So the shopping, it is not necessarily the purchase itself, but I'm finding a good deal, right? That excitement and that dopamine. So if you can find other things that gives you a healthier way of getting that dopamine fix, right? Like Wen and her, spontaneously, let's go out and meet someone. It gives that jolt of excitement to her, right? So you kind of need to find a different way of giving yourself a wellness ritual that does not cause further anxiety, right? And if you're worried that you're addictive to it, then that's a different issue. Do look up addictive therapy, like how can you actually get out of an addictive behavior, because then that doesn't become therapeutic anymore. It's actually addiction. Okay.
And this is a good lead on to, thank you for that. And thank you for your question. This is a good lead on to really using your strengths. So as part of the Flourish platform, we're really about building positive psychology. And really preventative approach to it. And so one of the surveys is really actually helping you understand what are your strengths. So I know Wendy's a big fan of the VIA survey. So maybe Wendy, go ahead and just kind of explain to people what that is and how can it be used.
Sure. So values in action, VIA, it's based on research by Martin Seligman and a few other researchers, and they went to different parts of the world to look at cultures and what makes what are kind of values they respect in all these different cultures. They came up with this set of questions to help people identify what their character strengths are, right? So for example, mine is spirituality, love for learning, gratitude. So I know mine, and I go, okay, if I'm back to language, or I don't have engagement, I can look at my strengths and say, how can I bring my strength into my task? How can I bring my strength into this project that is frustrating, right? And then I also have my team top 5 strengths, and I can use the team strength to build the culture that I want the team to have, right? Because that is our top 5 strengths. Yeah. So that's very useful.
Yeah, it's so powerful, especially in retaining people these days as well. Because if you're able to even tweak somebody's job a little bit to let them incorporate their top 5 values, and that's where they strengthen, because that actually gets them into flow and engagement. And so then understanding that, and then so when you then from the administrator's point of view, the person who's basically HR or whoever's looking at the whole organization, and then you can see within your organization what are the top 5, and then even when you plan things like company retreats or anything like that, well-being programs, you incorporate that in, because that really engages your workforce, rather than trying to guess what people like to do and all that. So I would definitely say doing the VIA survey, it's amazing. And then they'll even explain what it is, and then as a group, what are their top strengths and values. I think especially when work's been hard, everyone's working from home, or actually we've seen now people are saying it, you're living at work, not working from home anymore.
Living at, well, oh my, I'd be under the desk by
no, because it's the same space, right?
Yes.
So then but really zeroing on strengths is the best place, and to really create engagement and to find meaning in work again when things are feeling a bit mundane. How can you even tweak that individually or for your team that can really spark them again to really enjoy and get into the flow? And the results will speak for itself. You're going to get a much better quality of work, and people find joy in doing the task. So I think that's one really, really great tip. I think, and if you can do that as a team, it'll be really great. So we have about 5 minutes or so left. Let's just check whether there's any questions, but maybe one more tip that I thought might be helpful to everyone listening is just, a lot of people are uncomfortable having mental health conversations, but what FLOURISHdx does, right, is actually helps identify workplace factors that can contribute to burnout, or actually even understand what workplace factors are really engaging your staff. And so instead of having conversations, if you're not at that stage yet about mental health and, how's everyone doing, what you can really do is look at the data and say, actually, role clarity is an issue that a lot of people are having. So as a line manager, you can talk about that. You can say, okay, this is one of the issues. How can we help that? Because that will just naturally correlate to better, people just being mentally healthy, because if you can change that. So there's actually different ways of approaching this, and not thinking that talking about your feelings all the time, it's the only way.
Exactly. It's right. It's about the organization change. You can actually change things in the organization to actually help people flourish, right? Because it's 2 responsibility, individuals, right? And then the leaders in the organization can do something about how the work is designed.
That's right. Fantastic. And so I think that's one helpful thing where the Flourish DX platform allows for that to come through, and you can see what are these factors that is, contributing or to very good, mental health and also not so good mental health. So please, play around on the platform. And then Wendy does then the intervention work where required. So if there's really big issues, please contact her and her team to get support and even design some workshops around addressing these things. So really understanding what it is in the first place, I think is the first step. And data is just really, really important. So you can try it out in your small teams of 12, but then you can upgrade your subscription where you need to pay and your teams are bigger. But we really hope that this helps to contribute to better workplaces. We spend so much time at work, and imagine everyone hating it. It would just be a really, really sad thing. And so, I guess that was the goal of today, just to set, to reflect and also to set up for next year and having an expert like Wendy come in to speak. And also just to have really open conversations. And thank you for joining us. I know everyone's probably wanting to leave in a little bit. I can see, some people are leaving. There's going to be a poll that will come up. If you can just fill in the poll. But in the meantime, if there's still more questions, please. Oh, sorry, there is one. Does one's VIA strengths changes over time? I believe it does, Wendy, doesn't it?
Yes, because I've done it twice, and it will not change drastically, but I could also see that my second became my first, or my, and then now my fifth is perspective, which wasn't there before. So because of the current situation I'm in, some of the values became higher. But I also noticed that gratitude is always one of the top 5, right? And also looking at it, it's not like there's values that are worse off than the others. What we want to see is what is the top 5 that you can definitely tap on. And perhaps there's a few that's at what we call the lower strength that you say, you know what, I want to bring that a lot more in to my life. So I got a team member that says zest is not very high, but she wants to bring zest more. So she deliberately figure out how she can create zestiness in her life, right? So again, the self-awareness helps you to then make choices. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And we've got one here as well. How to get to the VI survey. So you can do it via the app. I believe you can get into the FLOURISHdx and then do the survey inside there. So that's that one. And then, okay, another question that came through. So thank you so much for being so open about this. Someone's been, struggling with their mental health and it's work related, and the HR bosses are not really, they're just really work focused, and it's not a high priority on mental health. So any advice or tips other than the only option of quitting, which is happening so much? Wendy, any tips on this?
So hang on, I was trying to find the question, but okay. So I think if you find that your work is not supportive, and then you might need to look outside work, not immediately go change job, okay? This is the great vaccination, but keeping that job, if it's important and useful for you, at least gives you that stability. But let me see. Okay, then you might need to then find other mentors or a community outside of work that you can get that support as well, right? So yeah, don't quit the job if you can't find it at work, and you can't talk to anybody to create it. Then find a community outside. So sometimes I find that a community of volunteers, because you have a focus that's bigger, so there's meaning, right? And also in that community, you learn and support one another. So hopefully that helps, so you don't need to quit your job. Then of course, if you learn something today that you feel like you can share with your HR and your bosses, by all means share it with them, because sometimes they are not aware. It's not that they're mean and uncaring. They are just too busy in the dance floor themselves to take a balcony moment and take a look at mental well-being. Yeah. So I would encourage that. Feel free to share.
Yeah, please. Share the link to the app. And hopefully that will, work out better. And thank you for your question. So I think what we'll do is actually wrap up now. Jamie, do you mind putting up the poll? And we would love to stay in touch. And if this has been really helpful, I think, Wendy and I, we really enjoy doing this and just engaging people. Wendy, do you mind flashing up the FLOURISHdx QR code again?
Oh, somebody said the QR code didn't seem to work. So I might actually put it on the link itself.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Sure
so
thing.
let me.
Yeah, we would love to have
copy.
people, if this was helpful, even topics, I'm sure Raubag would love to hear exactly what topic in this. I mean, it's a very, very big topic that might be helpful to people. Also, we run, I host a podcast that drops weekly on mentally healthy workplaces, and we talk about things like just things like power distance and some of the psychological things, but also really innovative software that's out there that's helping to improve workplaces. So please, darling, it comes out every Thursday, and we're actually, today was the last one for the year, and then we'll start again in January, and Wendy's actually on one of the first episodes. So if you want to get more tips from her, please do have a listen. But if there's any way that we can serve and help everyone in their work life, I think it'd be just such a great thing that we can see things improve. And so yes, if you can just fill out the polls, and then we'll let you off into the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining us. And please stay in touch. And it's just been a privilege to have everyone in and asking great questions. And for those who need support, please do reach out to Wendy, and she can also direct you to where potentially you can get help. And whether that's to a counselor or coach or anything like that. And the next session will be on the 8th of December. So please, join for the next session in their lifestyle series. It's such a great way to end the year. Just, doing a couple of fun things, but also looking at a couple of serious things like mental health and just preparing ourselves for the year ahead. So thank you so much. Wendy's email has just popped up. Please stay in touch. And also LinkedIn. Please connect with us because we're always posting things on mental health or tips or just great stories to share. So please connect with us via LinkedIn as well, and it's just exactly our name. You can find us on there, and you can follow FLOURISHdx's LinkedIn page as well. So they always have tips and really, really great speakers as well on the multiple podcasts that we run for FLOURISHdx. So thank you so much. And any last words, Wendy?
Oh, well, I wish all of you mental health, physical health in all ways, and stay safe and stay well and take care of yourself.
Great. Thank you so much. And we'll hopefully see you again in 2022.
Yes.
Have a wonderful afternoon. And Wendy and I will probably just stay on for another 4 minutes or so, but please do go. And if you need to go, but thank you so much. And thank you for Brown Bag for putting this on. It was such a great invitation for us to, and a privilege for us to be participating in this.
Thank you.
So thank you and take care. And thank you to HeadHunt.